Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and this is my card for this week's Color Throwdown Challenge. So I did my die cutting before I started filming, and I die cut some BRISTOL smooth cardstock with one of the Simon Says Stamp large tag wafer dies. And I'm lining it up with my MISTI, and I used one of the Creative Corner magnets. I will have links to all the supplies and everything I used in the description box below the video, as well as on my blog. But I lined up the tag with one of those, as well as my big magnet, just to hold it in place. And I didn't want it like smushed up against the corner of the inside of the MISTI, just because I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to line everything up. And ended up deciding to kind of offset the cat. This is from the Neat and Tangled Kitty's Favorite Things. This stamp set came out quite some time ago. I had a really hard time getting it back in the day. I say back in the day, it was however many months ago, because it kept selling out, and I was determined to own it, and then I got it, and it's been sitting with, you know, all my new stamps for months. So I pulled it out to make this card. So I stamped the tag with the cat, and I'm using Hero Arts Intense Black ink, and my card base is also BRISTOL smooth cardstock, because I wanted to color these cats the same way, which is to use my clean color real brush markers. So I made the card base from the same cardstock, and before I stamped the cat on the inside, I decided last minute to stamp the little ball of yarn first. So I inked it up with that Hero Arts Intense Black ink, stamped that, and then while it was still in the lid of the MISTI, I just put a piece of Post-it tape over it, and then stamped it again so I can quickly create a mask for the main part of the ball of yarn. So I'm just going to quickly cut around the perimeter of this, basically cutting right inside the line. So I'm on a masking kick lately. I don't know, I just want to mask everything. So mask that off, and then I can line up that cat image again so that when I stamp it, it's going to appear to be behind that little ball of yarn. So line that up, close the lid of my MISTI, ink that up with the Intense Black ink, and then stamp that onto the inside of my card. So I'm going to save that mask. I'm just going to attach it to the backing sheet for this set of stamps, and then I'm going to get to coloring these. So like I said, I'm using my Zig Clean Color Real Brush Markers, keeping the color combo really simple, because this is for the color challenge, which again, I'll have linked in my blog post. I'll have the graphic that we use and all that sort of info. So that will be in my blog post. So super simple coloring. I'm just using deep brown for the cat itself, and just applying small amounts and then pulling out the color with a water brush. I was a little heavy-handed with the water. Usually I don't use quite this much. Today, this water brush was just being kind of annoying and really leaky. I know you're not supposed to squeeze them when you're holding them, anything like that, and I wasn't. It decided to be annoying today. I don't know. But I just keep, when it is being like that and I'm not squeezing it and just too much water is coming out, I always keep, you know, a piece of paper towel, or you could keep a clean rag, whatever works for you, to kind of soak up that extra water so you don't have like blobs of water going all over your project. So I just went on each little section using that same marker and pulling in the color, so I didn't have to worry about each area drying first, you know, because normally the colors would run into each other. But since I'm keeping this whole image simple and using all one color, I don't really have to worry about that. So I used that marker on the whole image, and then on the little center area of the cat, I just used less of the marker and a bit more water to get that lighter look. So I did the exact same thing to the cat on the inside. And then for their little ears and their noses, I'm using light Carmine. So same thing, just scribbling a little bit of color and then pulling it out. And then decided when I was done with this first one, I still had a little bit of pink left on the brush. So I just quickly put it, you know, near the whiskers for little pink cheeks. Totally unrealistic, but it's just fun. So did the same thing with the one on the inside, added that little bit of pink to the ears and to the nose and then to the little cheeks. And then I'm going to color in that little ball of yarn on the inside of the card with May Green. So scribble that on. I just used the marker on like the loose little string and just left that. I didn't bother touching it with a water brush because I didn't want like the color to pull outside of that. And then to ground my little images, I am using gray brown. So I just scribbled a bit of that right next to the images and then pulled it out with my water brush to get it to fade. And I did the same thing with the one on the tags. Otherwise it just looks like the cat's like floating there. So added that little bit of color and then let this dry, which took, you know, a minute or so. Then I'm going to line this back up in my MISTI using the Creative Corners, and I'm going to stamp the two parts of the sentiment in this set. So this was why I offset the cat originally. So I lined up the UR and then the in every way right along the bottom, and I removed the creative corners just to make sure that this fit and stamped perfectly. So closed the lid on my MISTI, lifted it up to make sure everything was straight, because nothing is worse than, you know, stamping something crooked after you've spent all the time coloring it. So I got it straight and then used the same intense black ink. So I'm going to ink that up, shut the lid of my MISTI, and I did that twice to make sure these were stamped perfectly. So got that done, and then I have a scrap of some green cardstock that I just pulled out of my scrap drawer. So pulled that out, and I'm going to use my anti-static powder tool on that, and then I'm going to stamp this large banner sentiment to complete this card. So I'm going to stamp that with Versamark ink onto the green cardstock, and then I'm going to use my Hero Arts white embossing powder to coat this, and then I'm going to melt that with my heat tool. And there is a die set that coordinates with this stamp set, but I don't have it because in all my trials to try and get this set, the die set kept selling out. So when I finally had a chance to get the stamp set, I wasn't able to get the die set, and then kind of forgot I owned the stamp set. So anyway, I will eventually get it. So rather than use the coordinating die, I just trim this out with my scissors, leaving just a little bit of a border around the embossed outline on this fun little flag. And then I die cut some Kraft cardstock with the second largest die from the Simon Says Basic Rectangles Wafer die set, and decided to stamp a little bit of a pattern on the background. It doesn't show up as much in video, but you can see it in the photos at the end because I'm stamping everything in Versamark ink, which just creates a fun little watermark. Because I didn't want this to be, you know, obvious in your face. I just wanted it to be kind of a little subtle pattern. So I'm using the little mouse and the little heart image from this set and just kind of stamping them around. I was using the tag as an idea where, you know, the placement would be for all these little images. Plus, I didn't want to bother stamping them in the center here where you're not going to see it because it's going to be covered up by the tag. And then I just filled in some of the open areas with that little heart. And then I went through my stash and I had some green Doodle twine that matched the cardstock really well. So I quadrupled that up, and then I'm going to feed it through the hole in the tag, and then pull that through, pull the free ends through there, and then cut off the ends with scissors. So they're just kind of sticking up and around this tag here. And then I'm going to attach the tag to the Kraft cardstock with some foam tape so it's popped up. And then for the banner sentiment, I decided to pop that up with foam tape as well, because why not? So I cut down my Scotch foam tape in half so that it was a little bit thinner because it was too thick for this little banner sentiment. So I'm going to peel that off the backing, and once it's off the backing, it's a lot more flexible, so I can just easily mold it around. And then before I attach that, the two ends hung off quite a bit off that tag, so I just doubled up the foam tape right on the very ends here, so they don't end up getting like smushed in if this goes through the mail or anything like that. So I just quickly added two little bits at each end here, and then I can flip this over and adhere it into place on my card front. So once I had that adhered, I put more foam tape on the back of the Kraft cardstock and then popped this onto my card front. So having trouble with that little bit of baker's twine, the one piece wanted to like curl under and get stuck to the foam tape. So made sure that was out and clear. And then I was going through my enamel dots because I wanted to add some to the card. And I came across, I have all these packs of the Simon Says exclusive ones that I, again, bought several of to hoard for all time. And I had to add them to this card. They were just too cute. So I chose the ones with the little lashes and adhered those to the cat. And I love how it just completely changes the look of it. And then the regular enamel dots were just some Doodlebug ones from my stash in colors that match the color combo. So I stuck those onto my card front, and that finished off my card. So as always, I will have links below the video to my blog post with links to all the supplies used and a link to the color challenge if you guys are interested in checking that out. Please do. Thank you all so much for watching, subscribing, thumbs upping, and commenting on my videos. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye!